And welcome to Shanghai Mining Club in association with VSA Capital video blog. I'm delighted to have Jim Greig, the president of Benchmark Metals, which is a Vancouver-based company in British Columbia on the west coast of Canada, with a quite amazing gold asset in the north of Vancouver. Jim, great to have you here. Why don't you quickly run through your company?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having Benchmark. And look, Benchmark's had tremendous success over the last few years advancing our gold-silver project. As you mentioned, it's located in north-central British Columbia, the western side of Canada, but it's in a region that's road accessible. And at one point, this property was a former producer 30 years ago. And so the opportunity for Benchmark now is that it's taken old historical data and added some very robust drill programs and advanced this project to a point where there's over 3 million ounces of gold and silver in the ground in open pitable deposits. We are advancing it to update the resource. We're targeting approximately 4 million ounces in an updated resource. And in December of this year, past year, just over a month ago, the company raised $40 million in a bought deal financing that included the likes of Yamana Gold. So we had a gold producer provide equity and financial support to the company, which validates the management, but also the substantial project that we have. So there's some major milestones coming here for Benchmark. We've started drilling already in January. We're working towards an updated resource estimate in the coming months, and that will be followed by our first economic and engineering study. So there's a preliminary economic assessment that will be published within about 3 months' time. And so we're advancing very quickly, and by year end 2022, we hope to be closer to a mining decision.
And maybe a question straight in, actually, if you don't mind, is, you say it was a producing asset and shut down. I mean, why was that? Was that due to the gold price? And why is it that today you feel it's viable?
That's precisely it. It was a moderate-sized, underground, but high-grade gold and silver producer. But fast forward 30 years, the gold price is now around $1,800 an ounce. In the early 1990s, it was trading around $250 an ounce. So a significant difference in the economics and margins that you can make on the gold and silver prices. And what they neglected or didn't concentrate on years ago were these large, moderate grade halos that surrounded the high grade portion. And now what we see is it's transformed from a high grade underground mine to large open pits at surface that are all economic. And so it's changed substantially.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is what is described as the horseshoe area. And so it's not just a one-off anomaly. There's a lot of other miners around you, and it is a well-known area for gold.
No, that's right. This is a proven and prolific region. We are 45 kilometers away from Centerra's Kemess mine. It's a large world-class gold copper mine. We pass this facility on the road to Benchmark site. But within the region, we also see the likes of Newcrest, Newmont, and Freeport-McMoRan. So there's 3 world-class miners working in our region.
So, I mean, we know that all of those 3 that you've named are on the acquisition trail. Does that mean that you expect them to come perhaps knocking on your door pretty soon? Or, obviously you're planning, nope, we're going to go into production. How do you see that moving forward in the future?
Yeah, where Benchmark's acting as if we are going to put this project into production. However, that brings value to shareholders by advancing it. If along that route, a suitor came along and made an attractive offer, we would very likely consider it and accept it. We do have confidentiality agreements signed with a number of corporate entities, and they are reviewing data, and they have been for site visits. So we are in the crosshairs of multiple mining companies. And, you know, as we advance this project towards production, I think it's a very likely scenario that we could be a takeover target.
And if you were to go into production, go all the way and put it into production, you know, what is the sort of cost of doing that, and the return you might get? And obviously, with all these other gold miners around you, presumably there's an element of, for instance, processing, etc., that you can share with them and keep the costs low. I.e., the question that follows from that, of course, is what do you anticipate to be your cash cost of production?
That's something we're working towards in our preliminary economic assessment, which is coming soon. However, if I were to give approximate numbers, I would say production costs in this region and this type of deposit we have, it's likely to be under $900, perhaps $800 to $900 cash costs as a best guesstimate at this point. And at that kind of level, you know, there's a significant margin for, you know, rewards, given gold is now at $1,800. The capex to build a mine that would produce, you know, somewhere between 150,000 to upwards 200,000 ounces a year, you're looking closer to a $500 million Canadian capex, which is reasonable, given it could be a world-class producer. So these are the types of numbers and financial review that's happening in progress as we get towards this preliminary economic assessment. But I'd say the numbers should be very attractive and robust, given it's good grade, open pitable, road accessible. We're in an environment where, you know, gold is trending at $1,800 and looks as though it could get much higher with these inflation and debt numbers around the world. So I think Benchmark's in a very good position right now to make some nice rewards for shareholders.
I mean, as you say, you're only, I think it's about 4 hours or so north of Vancouver, so the jurisdiction really is ideal. But are there any First Nation issues, relationships, engagements that you have to get over? Or how does that play out?
Yeah, we've worked very closely with our First Nation partners. We are in their backyard. We've signed 2 agreements with First Nations, and these agreements allow us to work hand in hand. We've hired multiple different contractors that are First Nations related. And this all helps with gaining our social license and approval with First Nations. So we've already started the permitting path, and part of that was to engage the First Nations people with more sophisticated agreements.
I mean, just mentioning on the social side there, which is obviously the First Nations, a lot of people talk about ESG, so you've got the E and the G bit there as well. You know, do you have any sort of major ESG credentials that you're putting towards this, which is obviously becoming much more important nowadays in the way you're developing this mine?
Yeah, we're looking more closely at branding with some strong ESG partners. But given this was a former producer from 30 years ago, you know, that's a hurdle in itself, because the ground has already been disturbed. So we're not disturbing new ground. We're simply putting a brownfield project back into production that was already established. But there is some ongoing discussion here for stronger involvement with ESG. There's no question. And
changing the direction slightly, I mean, you've described obviously what will become a world-class mine in its own right, with, you know, 3 to 4 million ounces. But I believe that, you know, one of the opportunities here is that this area has a major porphyry, and that there is a sort of a theory that you're sitting on the source of this porphyry. I mean, is there anything you can, which obviously if you are, then that could add to your riches dramatically. Is there anything you can say about that and what perhaps your geos have discovered?
Yeah, absolutely. So the gold and silver that we're discovering and exploring at surface is epithermal system. And really the background on epithermal systems is there's generally plumbing that sits well below it, and it could be a porphyry. So we do see indications of some porphyry type environments within our project area. It could be sitting north of us, or it could be sitting well below us. And we are actively looking at porphyry type scenarios. But at the moment, you know, the low hanging fruit, so to speak, the easy pickings are all of the gold and silver that sits right at surface.
And it would be natural to try and start mining that, get the cash flow, and then actually go and drill a bit deeper and wider to try and expand the project. So
that's right. And there is some hints near our deposits in a zone called Silver Pond that has some high sulfidation type mineralization. And high sulfidation typically is more associated with a porphyry type environment. So, you know, we do see opportunities here to explore and look for that porphyry, and we are, you know, we have been drilling that area just to see whether it's deeper or, you know, where this porphyry could be existing. Certainly, if a porphyry was found, it would be a game changer for the company. It would vault us to a whole nother level.
It would be a game changer for the company, a game changer for the shareholders as well. So maybe people should get in the hope. But of course, we can never guarantee, but it does look quite promising. I mean, just look, it's been great chatting. A final question, perhaps, particularly in this current environment as we start 2022. You know, we're seeing hopefully a bit of an end to the pandemic, but what we're seeing is inflation coming in, and you know, a lot of people are saying, why isn't the gold price moving? It seems to have been stuck for a while. Actually, as you pointed out, it's actually come up a long way before we got into this period. But you know, we are actually seeing the silver price now starting to move ahead quite closely. But I mean, do you have any particular view on the gold and silver price, or are you just saying, look, you know what, at this level, we have such a good margin, it really doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. You know, there's no question $1,800 gold is very good for miners. There's a good margin that's being made. However, I think it takes time for the physical gold and silver price to catch up to the structural deficits. And I think through 2022, you'll see a larger lift in the physical gold and silver price. And as you mentioned, inflation, particularly in the USA, is at 40-year highs. It's raging out of control at the moment. And you're also seeing in Canada and parts of Europe where inflation is anywhere from 5 to 6%. Those are incredibly high numbers for the general population to accept with their spending dollars. And then on top of that, you're seeing extreme debt. So the structural proponents that are supporting gold and silver will eventually catch up. And I think you'll see some big lifts here coming in the near future.
Well, I think it's a great story even without it, Jim. You've given us a very good, quick summary. If people would like to know more about Benchmark Metals, then feel free, please, to contact us at VSA Capital, and our analysts can obviously tell you more, or of course, to contact the company directly, either to Jim or one of the company contacts. Jim, it's been great talking to you. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you go on forward from here, and hopefully your share price going significantly forward from here.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure working in partnership with VSA.
Thank you.